I've heard hundreds of horror stories told by truckers, and I get it. Doing this kind of work, you tend to run into strange things on the road, or certain things just happen. Still, before becoming just another trucker telling a story like this, I always figured people's imaginations ran wild when they were scared. Maybe mine did too, but you have to understand me. This went beyond anything I had ever experienced before. That night, I was driving my rig toward a hotel to get some rest. To kill time before checking in, I turned on the radio and started looking for some music. As I tried to find the right station, I landed on a song that was, how can I put it, quirky. The music was a bit old, way too old for my taste, but it was catchy. So I stopped tuning and decided to stick with that station. A while later, right over the music, strange voices began to come through. At first, I couldn't make out what they were saying, but when they finally became clear, the music cut out completely. That annoyed me. I was hooked on the song, but my curiosity took over. Despite my initial irritation, I didn't change the station. Slowly, I began to hear a man telling his story, and out of nowhere he said, "The owner of this truck needs to hear this." By this truck, he meant a very specific one. When he started describing it, I got worried, because he described it exactly like the truck I was driving. I thought it was a weird coincidence, but then the man started saying creepy things. How he died, where he died, the very same stretch of road I was on at that exact moment, and he added this and that detail. Instead of calming me down, it slowly wound me up. More people started telling different stories, but they had one thing in common. The place of their death was the stretch of road I was driving. I tried to change the station, but it didn't work. It was the same thing no matter which station I switched to. My skin prickled. I felt really cold, and all those voices in unison were telling me things, like a clear warning I wasn't going to heed. But my truck, even though I had the pedal to the floor, began to lose speed, and the voices grew more and more frantic and insistent. Terror completely took hold of me, and I kept thinking, what happens if my truck finally stops? Instead of stopping outright, the engine died. And the worst part, the radio kept repeating the same terrifying line. I don't know what caused it, but I'm sure you were lucky. On reflex, I tried to start the truck again, and miraculously, the engine fired up. I turned off the radio and got out of there immediately. I don't know what any of that was about, but from that day on, I never turned on a radio again, neither in my truck nor in any other car. I've had many weird things happen in this job, but the strangest is what I'm going to tell you next. This time, I was on a highway that cut through a forested area, and I was driving slower than usual because my load was delicate. Basically, the cargo was glass goblets, porcelain dinnerware, every kind of fragile thing. Most of what I carried could break or get damaged, and that adds a lot of stress behind the wheel, especially when you see a pothole coming. In spite of that, things were going fine, until in the middle of the forest, several trucks started passing me. What intrigued me about those trucks was that they were all exactly the same, completely black, including the windows and the trailer, without a single sticker or extra paint mark. They all overtook me, and suddenly one of them veered off the road and crashed into some trees. It threw me, but I kept my head. I thought about checking on the driver. After all, I wasn't going fast, so I pulled over and hurried to help. Running up to the wreck, I reached the cab and yanked the door open, and to my surprise, the inside of the cab was completely empty. Not a single person in there. That left me confused. Where had the driver gone? I was about to get an answer. Suddenly I heard footsteps, followed by a low growl or two. When I turned toward the sound, there he was. A man dressed head to toe in black, an open gash across his face, holding an axe dripping with something red. At first, I thought it was the driver, that he'd jumped clear before the crash. But unexpectedly, and with a nasty, deliberate air, the man started moving toward me. He didn't manage to hurt me, but it was obvious that when he got close, he tried to attack. I panicked, bolted, jumped back into my truck, and drove away. I called emergency services to report the accident, and as I kept driving, one by one, I saw all the trucks from that convoy, each wrecked in the same way. I didn't stop to help anyone this time. Next to each wreck, I could see the same man who'd tried to attack me. I had 1,000 questions that day, but honestly, I wasn't going to stick around while a lunatic with an axe and bad intentions was on the loose. I've hauled strange things before, and frankly, I don't care what I'm hauling as long as I get paid. At the end of the day, I just have to deliver the load. But I had never carried anything stranger than what I'm about to describe. My truck is huge, my trailer very spacious, but they hired me to move a simple container that easily could have fit in a pickup with no problem. I wondered why, but considering how much I was going to be paid, I kept my mouth shut. They loaded the container on my trailer, and I set off. Before I left, the person who hired me gave me a special warning, almost begged me not to drive at night. It meant I'd take longer to reach my destination, but fine, I could rest at night. So I drove until dark and looked for a hotel. But on my way there, strange things started happening. My truck lost power. Sometimes it wouldn't accelerate properly. The gear lever stuck. Tons of technical problems cropped up. After all that, I started hearing weird noises from the back, like someone was pounding on the trailer. That worried me. I thought something might have happened to the cargo, so in the middle of the darkness, I pulled over to see what was going on. The trailer clearly had dent marks, but the strange part was that the blows looked like they'd come from inside the trailer, not outside. Had someone gotten into it? I grabbed my flashlight and opened up the trailer. No one inside, but I felt an eerie, icy wind that made my skin crawl, and the container looked slightly open. It wasn't completely sealed. Right away, I saw something slip out of that container. Honestly, it was so dark I couldn't be sure what it was or even what color. I got a little closer to see, and the only thing I could make out was that it was a thick, viscous substance. Then, immediately, I heard something moving inside the container, which, no lie, scared me a bit. I backed away, and just as I was about to shut the trailer, I heard a piercing scream, like a terrified woman. I slammed every lock on the trailer and drove off, but I didn't even dare climb back into the cab at first. I tried to sleep a short way off the road, but the relentless pounding, whatever it was, against the trailer wouldn't let me. I heard pounding, screams, and scratching, and to tell the truth, I was so scared I couldn't bring myself to look and see what was causing it. After that night, I never accepted that kind of job again. It was the most terrifying experience of my life. I'm relatively new to this work. I've only been a trucker for a few months. I've listened to my friends tell funny anecdotes and intriguing stories, some that have given me nightmares. But I'd never had any major incidents, until this time. I'd been driving for about 8 hours, and I was exhausted. People think this job doesn't take any effort, but they're totally wrong. Driving something this big is exhausting. Night fell, and I found a small motel just off the highway, so I pulled in to rest a bit. I had a deadline for the delivery, but catching 3 or 4 hours of sleep wouldn't hurt, so I didn't hesitate. The man at reception was odd. His voice was monotone, his face completely expressionless, and his skin was very pale. I was so tired I didn't care. I just went straight to the room they'd assigned me. As soon as my head hit the pillow, I fell asleep. But before that, I set an alarm for exactly 3.5 hours. When I woke up, strangely, I felt more tired than when I'd laid down. It threw me. I tried to get up, but I couldn't control my body. And incredible as it sounds, I saw the receptionist standing at the foot of my bed, staring at me with that empty face. He told me I couldn't leave the room until the 4 hours I'd paid for were up. I couldn't even speak. With every passing second, I felt more and more exhausted. Maybe it was my imagination, but little by little the man's pale face seemed to gain color. At one point I even saw him smile. He leaned in and whispered in my ear that he hadn't had a guest in a long time, and that the last one had died in the very bed I was in. I won't lie. Terrified as I felt, I was starting to panic, and breathing was getting hard. In the middle of it, I heard someone else whisper in my other ear, "Run." I don't know how, but almost immediately I got control of my body back, and, doing exactly what might have been a ghost told me to do, I ran and bolted from that place without looking back. I don't know how I managed to run so fast after feeling so drained, but I can say I didn't take long to reach my truck, start it, and tear out of there. I've had to take that route a few more times since, but I'm careful to avoid stopping at any hotel. I remember this last one clearly. I had just dropped off a load and was heading home. The only catch was that the delivery point was in another city, so I still had a trip ahead of me. Going through a tunnel, a reckless driver tried to pass, and I had the bad luck that someone in the other lane did the same. They collided, a horrible crash. All the drivers around wanted nothing to do with it, but I kept my cool, called emergency services, and went to see if I could help anyone. I saw both drivers, a woman and a man, but oddly, neither had major injuries. I mean, they had some wounds, but nothing that matched such a terrible wreck. We were on the outskirts of the city, so naturally EMS would take a while. I tried talking to them to see if either was conscious. I'm no first aid expert, but it's common sense to make sure they're okay. I went to the man first. I didn't touch him, but he grabbed my arm much harder than I thought he could. Before letting go, he said to me, "Don't let him take me." I went to check on the woman, and it was exactly the same with her. Confused as I was, I started to get nervous. It didn't take long before I heard footsteps. Their owner approached slowly until he reached the crash site. He spoke a single word, in a deep, grave tone. Time. He wasn't talking to me, but to the man and woman in the wrecks. They begged me, pleading with me not to let the man take them, but I didn't understand what was happening. He grew furious and told them both they had made a pact and had to honor it. Then he told me that if I got involved, there would be serious consequences. He looked me straight in the eyes, and I don't know how, but his blue eyes filled me with fear. At first I thought, he can't be a killer or something, but with that look, somehow I was convinced there was something supernatural about him. I have no idea what he was, but with the terror flooding my heart, I honestly didn't want to know. Almost immediately, the man and the woman, both still in their wrecked cars, began to scream and say it was unbearably hot. The blue-eyed man told me very clearly to get in my truck and leave, and he added that if I wanted to see what would happen to those two, I'd have to make a pact with him. Honestly, just looking at him told me there was nothing I could do to help those people. So, cowardly as it may sound, I got in my truck and left. I don't really know how to describe it, but I can tell you this. Being near that man felt like being close to death.